Tina, I see someone that I know very well who's dialing in from Sydney, Australia at 2 a.m. That is dedication. Hi, Maggie.
Hi,
Thank you. Thank you so
congratulations.
much.
Thank you.
Where? Oh, here it is. Ah, what?
Wonderful. It's international already. We have Croatia in the room. We have East Coast, West Coast, South. We have Canada. Wonderful. Thank you all for joining us. We'll wait till the top of the hour, wherever you are on the planet, and we will begin our mental freedom revolution is here. Hello, Karen, for putting on your camera. Very nice.
Her first time on Zoom. Good job, Karen. You did it.
Wow, thank you.
Okay, so when we get started, we'll just go through a little bit of how we're going to spotlight things, and then we'll get cooking. So most of you...
I'm sorry, I just want to acknowledge a comment from Kat, who said she knows right where I'm sitting because she's been in my office, and she does know, except I'm standing instead of sitting today because I wanted to have full energy for all of you guys. So here I am standing in my office, excited to see you all.
Okay, once again, everyone, thank you for coming. We're going to be letting people in the room as they come. Feel very welcome. The program's going to be about an hour, but we scheduled a little longer if we go over, because we're going to invite, after the first part of the interview, we'll invite some more dialogue and hear from some people who have either completed their mental freedom practitioner training, are in the middle of it, or perhaps have been through a mental freedom experience already. So if you're new to this, don't worry. We'll also give you a deep background on how this mental freedom revolution came about and why it's so important right now. So again, settle in, get yourself some glass of water, be comfortable in your space, and we're really happy to have you. Again, I'm Tina, and we're going to be spotlighting the author of Mental Freedom, Kim Olver. How you feeling, Kim?
I feel great. I'm so excited. And you know me, I'm so relational, and I'm seeing people come in the chat that I would love to have a conversation with, but that's not what today is about. I see Gwen joined us, and Gwen is vacationing right now in Canada, but because it's raining, she's actually here. So I never thought I'd say I'm happy it rained on your vacation, but today I am, at least for this time.
I think she'll forgive you, but she'll tell you later. I see Kat is got her video up. Hi, Kat. You're welcome to unmute before we get started and give Kim a little hello.
Mwah! Miss you, girlfriend.
I miss you too.
I know. It's like I was trying to figure out the last time that we connected, and I'm thinking I don't want to. I don't want to think about it.
It's been way too long.
Yeah.
Way too long.
And I'm thinking of all the list of things, but congratulations. And I'm glad to be here today.
Thank you. Kat was one of my guinea pigs for mental freedom. She let me do it with her very early on.
Yes.
So that was really lovely to have people who are willing to volunteer. And there's others on this call who did the same. So
Yeah.
I just want to give a shout out and tell you how much I appreciated that.
Well, great. And we're just approaching the top of the hour. So thank you everyone for coming. We'll be welcoming anyone who joins the link later. Just a reminder, we are recording this session. So if you have your video on and you do not want to be seen, make sure that you turn it off. We'll be spotlighting Kim soon. And here we go, we're off. So welcome, everybody. I'm Tina Lee Odinsky-Zec, and I will be the host of this program for Olver International. Kim Olver is our guest and the founder of the Mental Freedom Experience and Practitioner Training course. She also has her book coming out just days away. You can find it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and other outlets, and we'll be giving you some great promo codes later on. So without further ado, welcome everyone and welcome Kim.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so happy everyone else is here as well.
Okay, well, before we begin, I would definitely want everybody to keep the chat going. And if you have reactions or you have questions as we're going through, they'll be visible to us, and we'll read them out or ask you to open your mic. But we're going to start off really with why mental freedom is so important right now. And that is, if we look at the stats, Kim, if we look at them across Europe, if we look at them across the US, and these very dramatic things that have happened. I was looking at the Eurobarometer, and it stated for 2023 that 46% of their respondents said that they experienced emotional or psychological problems like anxiety and depression in the last 12 months. I don't think it's improved. And it's the reason why is that 62% say these world events, COVID, and that the other wars and conflicts that are going on are just greatly or somewhat making them feel anxious and stressed and changing how they experience the world. I've seen many other statistics like it, and I don't think the US is much more better off. What drew you to create this mental freedom, and how do you think it can address, these stark numbers of this epidemic of mental illness, mental unwellness?
Yeah, I definitely don't want to call it mental illness, because I think that all of us, almost all of us, are walking around with some form of distress. I'm going to call it emotional, mental distress. It's not at the level of trauma. It's not at the level of diagnosis for many of us, but we worry about things. We are concerned about things. So I think about, for me, this started in the pandemic. And it started in the pandemic because I didn't really recognize myself in the beginning of the pandemic. I lost my mind, not unlike a lot of other people in the world. It was scary. And for the first 2 weeks, I was staying with my mother. I had gone there to visit her. So it was that in and of itself is a little bit stressful. Those of you who know my relationship with my mother, it's a little complicated. I love her to death. I know she loves me, but we butt heads like this when we're in the same space for too long. So I was already there planning to leave at the end of March in 2020. It was my first time planning to stay for a month. And then COVID happens, and my mother all morning, even when there is no pandemic, watches Joe Scarborough in the mornings. So the news was on for half of the day, and the news was terrifying. And so I was a mess. And it was about 2 weeks into it. And I said, Kim, get a grip on yourself. You know how to not be upset about things. I know choice theory. And I want to give a big shout out to William Glasser. I know maybe he's listening, but he is the one that taught a lot of us on this call choice theory. And for other people, they may have learned it from me or someone else. But choice theory is a thing that really allows people to recognize that we stress ourselves when we focus our energy, attention, and resources on things that we can't control. And we try to control things we have no business controlling. And I know that I wanted to control the pandemic. I wanted to make it stop. And that was what all the angst was about. And the fear for my mother mainly. I was scared for her. My mother, she's going to be 85 this year. So during the pandemic, she was 80, 81. And it was scary for me. Simultaneously, a lot of my work had been canceled because nobody was having meetings where they needed a person to speak. So a lot of my work was canceled and I had time on my hands. So what did I do with the time? I started to think about, after that 2-week period, I really got things really manageable for myself. I started to say different things to myself. I started to think different things. I started to do some proactive things. Some of you might remember I would advertise on Facebook. I held support groups on Facebook for people who were just fried from the pandemic. And I also had little happy hours on Friday evenings for people who we're just looking for some connection, because many of us were alone, cooped up in our house, and that's not good for extroverts for sure. So I started to reflect on what it was that helped me take choice theory from the theoretical and apply it in my life to such a degree that I could pretty much manage well through the pandemic. And I know there were other people who managed well through the pandemic. I'm not the only one. But it was the first time that I had the reflection time to really think about it. And when I did, that's when I came up with those 6 principles of mental freedom and the way to apply them in your life so that you could have the same kind of peace that I was actually enjoying. So that was what it was for me.
Well, I think that's absolutely a gift that you were able to take what you knew and then apply it to your own situation. But a lot of people didn't have those coping mechanisms. And as I see the statistics, 55% of adults with mental illness in the United States don't have treatment. So how might we understand that mental health needs to be everybody's solution? So whether you, as you explained it, Kim, are working on yourself or working on the relationships around you, it's not always going to go to the default that you see on a Hollywood film. And not all friends are ready to cope with it. So when I came across mental freedom, because I'm also a practitioner now, I have to say that it made me go, every adult human being on the planet really needs to take responsibility and own these 6 principles. So I can't wait for you to share them. But I think it comes very squarely into why we're talking about it today.
Mhm.
It's not somebody else's problem. It starts with you and the relationships you have around you, just like you were recounting you and your mother, because these things are happening, and the mental health crisis is not happening in just a spot on the geographic scope. It's not in one country or one location. It's everywhere. It's not with one generation. It's with all generations and expressing itself differently. And the last part is it's across social classes. So it's not just for the rich or the poor. It cuts across everything. So talk to me a little bit about how that, once you started sharing it beyond using it for yourself and documenting, what inspired you to reach more and really make this a mental freedom revolution, as you call it?
Right. I do want it to be a revolution because honestly, Tina, I see people all around me. I call them the walking wounded. They're functioning. They're going through all the things that are expected of them. Some of them are even thriving in their categories. They're business leaders, they're professionals, they're therapists, they're doctors and lawyers, and people who are living from the outside looking in, they're living wonderful lives. But when you scratch the surface of those lives, you find that underlying the external that people show other people, there's something inside that tends to be disrupting their peace. And I believe that we all have a right to peace. We don't have a right to perfect lives, and we don't have a right to not have bumps along the road. And knowing mental freedom, or choice theory for that matter, does not mean you're never going to have another bad experience again, or you're never going to feel emotions that are challenging for you. But it does mean that you'll have the tools you need to right yourself relatively quickly, and you don't have to suffer. The suffering is optional. Pain happens to everyone, but the suffering is optional. And I think one of the biggest things, I make the bold statement that I think our mental health system is broken. And I truly believe that. And what I mean by that is we seem to think about mental health as this dichotomy. You're either mentally ill or you're mentally well, and there's nothing in between. And certainly that's not true. It's the same as our physical health is on a continuum. We have various degrees of health. We also have various degrees of mental health. We all have a level of mental health. We just need to figure out what that is. And the question is, if you want to get healthier, up until now, there's only been two ways of doing that really within the mental health system. And that is go for counseling for a very long time, or take some medication, or possibly do both. And I think that these simple principles of mental freedom, simple to understand, not so simple to implement, when people know these principles, they won't need to go to counseling for years. They won't need to take these psych drugs that have some serious side effects and other problems that are not often discussed in the mainstream society. So I'm hoping that my goal is to impact 2 million people with the concepts of mental freedom. I don't know where I got that number from. I think I like twos. So 1 million wasn't enough. So I went with 2 million people. And I don't expect that I'm going to do that on my own. I need other people to learn mental freedom and spread it to the people that they know, and to tell people about it so that people want to get involved. I found it to be so exciting. And people that have had the mental freedom experience have made some big changes in their life, and they've fixed some issues that were plaguing them for a long time. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. It could be a little thing. Maybe you're fighting with your neighbor for the past 2 years, and it's so silly and you want to fix it, or something like that. Mental freedom will help you without anybody else in your life changing at all. It's you changing how you think about things, how you interact with people, and what you do that can change your whole world experience. And we have so much more power than we know. And the only reason we feel powerless is because we're trying to change things that we can't change. If we start looking in the mirror and changing the things about ourselves, we have more power than we really understand. And that's why I want to start this mental freedom revolution. And it's already started. We have 40 practitioners who are certified to be able to deliver it. And I myself personally have shared the mental freedom experience, which is the 6 sessions of mental freedom, with I think it's close to 100 people already. And I
Okay.
want, of course, more and more all the time.
I'd love to give a little shout out to those in the audience. If you have been through a mental freedom experience, please put it in the chat. A mental freedom experience alumni. You can either raise your hands or give us a reaction, or post in the chat so we can see who you are. We'd love to get some of your feedback. And thank you, Tony, for raising your hand. Great. I think everybody has an epiphany story once you go through the mental freedom experience. But for those of you who are brand new to mental freedom, the book is coming and you'll be able to grab that. It's under $15. It'll be available on Barnes and Noble and Amazon. So Kim, you can tell them more about it. This revolution and the importance, you are saying some very radical things there. You're saying people can put down the pill box and put down, years and years of therapy. I've been through it, so I absolutely believe you. How do you communicate that to someone who's never heard it before? never, they're intrigued by the combination of the words mental and freedom coming together.
Yeah.
But
Because
beyond that,
yeah, mental freedom is such an amazing experience. And just putting those two words together, people know, oh yeah, I want some of that, or I need more of that. First, I want to be responsible, though. I need to be a responsible practitioner and say, I am not a physician. So I'm not telling anyone to stop taking medication. Okay. I want to be clear about that. I believe that the vast majority of people who are on medication probably can very, very slowly wean themselves off of that medication once they learn mental freedom and they start to feel better. But there are some specific protocols that most physicians don't know about the slow taper. They'll say a slow taper, but they cut people's medicine by 50% every month, and that's way too fast. And that creates a withdrawal effect that will cause you to feel worse than you did when you first got on the medication. And then they'll say, see, I told you you need this medication for the rest of your life. It's a horrible thing, and I have many references in the book to help you if that's an issue for you and you want to understand it better, because I'm not a doctor, but I have studied many doctors who are in this camp of the dangers of medication. Psychotropic medication is what I've always called it, but brain drugs that can change the chemical balance within our brain. So it's something I don't focus a lot on that because I'm not a doctor, but I will focus on helping you develop the tools you need to be able to manage, I say, manage whatever happens in your life. And sometimes they're little things, sometimes they're big things. But when you know mental freedom and you put it to practice, you can manage all of it. And I don't want to say it's effortless because it does require practice. It's just like anything else. You learn something new, you have to practice it, and it will be awkward at first. It won't feel right in the beginning, but it does get better. So I'm just excited for people to learn it and to use it in their life and to see what difference that it does make.
okay, so if you have to crystallize it in a story now, what would be for the first principle? Okay, everybody knows there's 6 principles. Okay, for the first principle that you want to convey tonight, can you unpack that as a little nugget for them as a preview of what they're going to get when they read the book?
Sure. So the first principle is called responsibility versus responsibility. And as far as I know, the word response-ability came from Stephen Covey in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's the first time I ever heard of it. The way that I talk about the difference between responsibility and responsibility is we always have the ability to respond. There's always something we can do. If you see a homeless person on the street, you can walk on by, you can pretend you don't see them, you could stop and have a conversation, you could give them money, you could bring them food, you could buy them a blanket. There's all kinds of responses that we could have. So we always have the ability to respond. We lose our mental freedom when we take responsibility for things that aren't ours, and we lose mental freedom when we don't take responsibility for the things that are ours. So some examples of that. The first thing we're responsible for is every single thing that we do and everything that we think. So some people will say, well, you have thoughts that come into your head you didn't necessarily want. Yes, you do. I'll admit that. And as soon as you do, you can think something different. We have the ability to change our thoughts at any moment. So that's pretty cool. And the other things that we're responsible for in mental freedom, we talk about the 5 basic needs of choice theory. These are the needs that all humans have. And it's our job as a human to get our needs met. We can't look to other people to meet our needs for us. We need to meet them ourselves. So that's one thing we're responsible for. And corresponding to getting our needs met, we're responsible for our own happiness. But how many times have we said to someone, I'll be happy if he would just, whatever, fill in the blank, or I'll be happier when she blah, 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 whatever it might be. But you have a choice to be happy right now, regardless of what anyone else in your life is doing. So that's another responsibility you have. We're also responsible for the solutions to our own problems. So when I'm mad or frustrated about something, it might be, usually it's something someone else is doing. And so I'm upset about something someone else is doing. I could nag them, complain to them, criticize them, punish them even, do all kinds of things to try to get them to fix themselves so I could live my life happier or in a less frustrated way. But it would be much more prudent if I would just take control of the situation myself and fix it myself, either do it myself, hire someone else to do it, change my mind about how important it is, rather than to continue to harangue another person to give me what I want so I can be happy. Fix it yourself. It's your problem. That person probably isn't even thinking about it because it's not important to them. The other thing we do is we often take responsibility for things that aren't ours. So the two examples I use in the book are trauma inflicted on us by another person and our adult children. These are things that when I work with adult survivors of trauma, they often blame themselves for the trauma that happened. Well, if I wasn't in that neighborhood, if I wasn't wearing these clothes, if I had dinner ready on time, they're always trying to find what could they have done differently to prevent the trauma because they're looking for some kind of control. But the thing is, you didn't do it. You're not responsible. The person who perpetrated the trauma is the responsible party, and we need to put the responsibility squarely on their shoulders rather than blaming ourselves for something we had no control over. And the other one is our adult children. We all have, well, I don't know if everybody here has adult children. I definitely have adult children. I don't even like to mention it because my oldest son has surpassed me in age. I am still 25 years old, and somehow he turned 40 this year. So I have a 40-year-old and a 38-year-old, and I don't take any responsibility for what they do. I just don't. It's not my responsibility anymore. I was never responsible for what my children did, but I felt responsible for raising them to value certain things and to behave in certain ways. And so I taught them the ways that I prefer, and they've adopted some of those, and some of those they've completely rejected. I often laugh when my son Kyle will say to me, "Well, Mom, I've kind of figured out it doesn't make a lot of sense to get upset about things I have no control over." I want to jump up and down for joy because I've never taught him that, but he has picked that up through osmosis, that that's something that I believe. But when our children become adults, sometimes they may need things from us and they ask us to do something. So we get to decide, is this something that I want to do for them or is it not? And if we're doing it because we want to, that's taking responsibility for something that someone else is. You can do that, but I like people to ask themselves the question, what does this do for them? When I take responsibility for something that belongs to someone else, I may very well be robbing them of the opportunity to learn whatever it is they need to learn by going through this under their own strength, their own steam, figuring it out themselves. So if we're taking responsibility for someone else and we feel it's an obligation, that takes our mental freedom. But if we do it because we genuinely want to and we think it's going to be helpful to that person, then we're being responsible. So it really depends on how you are thinking about it and what the result is going to be, whether it's a responsibility or you being responsible. So that's the first principle, and it's really taking a look at those things. Where in your life could you take more responsibility than you do now? And is there somewhere in your life that you feel you need to relinquish responsibility for things that really aren't yours? And then after you go through that analysis, you can think about, are there places where you truly want to be responsible? And go ahead and do that.
Well, I think there's two things when you were talking that what triggered in my head. Just today, I think it was YouTube or something like that, or Facebook, I saw a man who is an artist, and he was experiencing homelessness, and not him, but his neighbor was experiencing homelessness in Santa Ana, California. And, he usually would, because it was so overwhelming, because it was so crippling, because he couldn't take responsibility of homing this person, he ignored them. He didn't give money, he just ignored them. And then that person that he saw every day felt unseen. Then he had a trigger and said, what am I responsible for? Without saying it, I can't project that he read your book or knew these principles, but something triggered inside of him. What am I responsible for? And because he was an artist and he recognized that he saw this person as homeless and they saw themselves as homeless, he wanted to give them another way to look at themselves, and he wanted to look at them differently. So he started painting their portraits. And he did them and talked to them enough to get joy out of them over something that they were hopeful for, out of something that brought them happiness. And when he could capture that twinkle in the eye and the glow across the cheek, he would take some photographs, go back home and paint these huge portraits. Then he would show it to the person, sell them the portraits, and earn money and generate it for someone. So not everybody can do this, but he didn't try and feel crushed that he couldn't provide a home for them. He went out and taken action. So I love that we always have these very intimate stories about what we're responsible for and what we think we're responsible for. And then this completely different view, and you can't get it out of your head once you learn, should I be responsible or should I be responsible? And I think when I went through the training or the experience, I think understanding the percentages of your responsibility in different relationships really helped a lot. So maybe you can comment on that, and then we'll move on to the second one, which is also epic, and everyone will love it.
Well, in relationships, I say that you are responsible for your half of all the relationships that you're in. And what that means is you have basically two responsibilities in your relationship. The first one is you're responsible for getting your own needs met. So if you're in a relationship and you're looking to someone else to meet your needs for you, that is going to rob you of your mental freedom. So you're responsible for getting your needs met, and you're also responsible for not preventing the other person from meeting their needs. Because sometimes we want to stand in the way of people getting what they want and meeting their needs because it's not good for us. But in mental freedom, you recognize that that's not your call. It's not your life. So you don't get to dictate what another person can and cannot do to get their need met. But once you see what they choose to do, then we move into the second principle, which means now you have to take responsibility for your relationship with this person. And what do you want that relationship to look like? It may not be the same as it was before you see the way that they choose to get their needs met. So
and I love the examples that you give are quite intimate, and the ones I do when I was leading mental freedom experience as well. But the capacity for this mindset shift to solve things in the legal system is also very inspiring for me. I think that if people go through mental freedom and then go through mediation, when they're totally reframing this problem that they're blaming someone else 100% for, they own their own percentage and they don't make the other person miserable to get their half. I mean, I know probably some people will be horrified, but if you look at some celebrity mudslinging divorces going on right now, and they're constantly in the headlines, I wonder what would happen if we could get them to get some mental freedom and how that might change and benefit their children.
I would love that opportunity. I would love nothing more than to teach mental freedom to celebrities who would be able to share the experience with other people. I think we've got to get the word out however we can get the word out, because it's stuff that I haven't had anybody take mental freedom and been unfazed. I've had people take it and have bigger transformation than other people, but I have yet to come across anyone who just says, I know this stuff. Sometimes they say that in the beginning, but by the end of the 6 sessions, they're like, wow, this is different. And it really depends on your willingness to open to the information and actually apply it in personal scenarios. I know you talked about being a practitioner, and a requirement is that if you want to be a mental freedom practitioner, you have to go through the experience first. And that is because I don't want anybody who's teaching mental freedom as a knowledge-based program. It has to be taught as an experience-based program. And we teach it through a lot of personal stories. We don't just say, here are the things you need to implement in your life. We share stories where they've actually been implemented, and participants can see themselves in those stories. Maybe not the exact story, but they're saying, oh yeah, I do that. And oh yeah, that has taken some of my mental freedom. And then they can apply, and it just gets better.
I think going back to where people feel stuck or depressed or stressed, it's because they feel stuck in a corner, that they can't get out of the situation that their mind has put them in. And when you get these tools of the 6, at least 1 or 2 are going to be your go-to to get you out of that trap of the stories you're telling yourself. And I love retelling stories now and telling them from different angles and really believing that they could be, but not to a point where you're overthinking. This is supposed to stop you from overthinking. You're not responsible for everything, so take what you are responsible for and own it. So I know we won't be able to get through all 6 of the principles, and I want to leave time for some of the people who went through mental freedom experience and also some of the other practitioners, because I think Carmela is on the line. Maybe Rita could be here, or Amber, and and Tony, I think you said as well, and Kat. So those are some of the names. If you want to be called out, I think we'll go over one more principle, Kim, and then we'll open up the mic. One of the things that why we want to hear from some of the practitioners and the alumni of Mental Freedom Experience is because you really believe that it has to be in your head, in your heart, and then in your hands as doers. So why don't you unpack that philosophy you have? Because you won't, as you said, have it impact 2 million people without other people also thinking it, feeling it, and doing it. So please expand on that.
Right. So for me, the head part, you can get the head part by reading the book. It'll all make sense. You'll say, yeah, I get it. In fact, you may already understand it because I can go on social media on any given day and find memes that speak to aspects of mental freedom. It's common knowledge in our heads. But have you ever read a meme on Facebook and said, oh yeah, easier said than done? Or, yeah, that, of course, that makes total sense. But then you go out and you do something that contradicts it, because the head doesn't dictate how we are in the world. We have to take it from head knowledge into personal application. And that's where the heart comes in, right? So you apply it to whatever is stressing you at the moment. And it'll be different things on different days, right? So you put it to use with whatever it is that you're encountering in that moment. And then before you can start teaching it to other people, that's the hand part. It's like, I want to help other people learn mental freedom. we do have a training program, but it's by invitation only. And the reason it's by invitation only is because we want people to get it in the head and the heart. And when we can see that you're really applying this, that it really has changed how you live in the world, then you can start teaching it to other people and you'll be effective. But without the heart part, you won't be effective. It's like the professor at the front of the room who's teaching you counseling theories and you're going through the book and it's dry and boring because there's no real connection to real life. So that's the head, heart, and hands of mental freedom.
So we will open it up now if you want to share a snippet of how mental freedom experience has impacted you, or how you're practicing it and how it's working with your clients. Again, the mental freedom practitioners are in two buckets. One are coaches, like I'm myself a coach, and as Kim knows, I try to tread very carefully when it goes into the counseling because I'm not qualified as a counselor, and she has people who've gone through it who have a background in counseling and can take it in that direction. So for example, I'm in Croatia and I use it for coaching. I don't know if Mirjana is on the call, but Mirjana is also in Croatia and she uses it in the counseling. And she's also, as Kim put it out, from the head to the heart to the hands, how do you practice it? So Mirjana has come up with a workbook. So the greatest thing that I think Kim has done is, here's the framework, but get your own stories and understand how to get the clients to tell their stories with these frameworks and work it out for themselves. So I think there's going to be a lot of creativity in the application and the scaling of the ideas that Kim has put into this very valuable resource. And again, I'd like to open it up. Kim, maybe Carmela, is Carmela in the room? Maybe you want to have a dialogue quickly with her.
Yeah, Carmela, are you here? Are you on mute, or can you say something so you get to the front of the line here?
I am
Oh,
here. I'm
okay.
here.
All right.
Trying to unmute.
Okay, and I don't know if
maybe
you want to.
Goran can unmute you and turn your video on, Carmela, and welcome.
Sure. Okay.
Are
hang
you
on a
okay
second.
for video? I don't want to take anybody who just got out of bed or isn't feeling well and put you on video
No,
if you're
I'm
not
good.
ready.
I'm actually on my phone, so let me see if I could do this without um
You usually have to
it being more
tap
difficult.
and then it'll come up on the bottom of the screen. There you go. Oh, you
Okay.
look
Welcome,
lovely.
I do.
You
Thank
do.
you. Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, so Carmela is one of our practitioners who is both a licensed therapist as well
Yes.
as a certified coach. So I don't know if you want to share how you use it, what problems you've
Certified.
encountered and helped people with. Whatever you want to share would be good.
So two areas that I've actually started using it with clients. Sorry, I'm adjusting here. One is actually with the military. I'm a clinician, been a clinician for a long time. But I also, you might see my dog here. There's Cindy. I worked with the military population. That's how I met Kim, as a military family life consultant, where we would support family members and service members. I think this is around 2009, 2008, 2009, up until now. And about 6 years ago, I actually, I say crossed over and embedded into the Army Reserve as their suicide prevention program manager. So with those contacts, I was also trying to collaborate with Kim on how we could bring choice theory, because I was a basic trained choice theorist. But when I took Kim's mental freedom as a suicide prevention program manager, I'm like, this would be really great to introduce a different level of training for our service members. So fast forward to now, after the certification, one of my retired lieutenant colonels and I do we call it Heroes for Life Consultants, and we do trainings that the service members may not receive outside of their required training. So we do a suicide prevention class, we do classes on relationships, we do classes on resilience. We incorporated mental freedom into our trainings and have been working at Fort McCoy in Wisconsin, introducing the service members and civilians as well to, you know, filling their buckets. And I'm very interactive. I'm not a PowerPoint person. So, you know, using basic like flip charts, getting them up and moving, and discussing how values are incorporated into, you know, your needs, all the 5 needs. This next round, we're actually going to do next module is on unconditional trust, which I think will be really powerful because the dynamic there is you're voluntold many times to do what you're supposed to do on a mission. The other population that I've started using this with is in my counseling practice with domestic violence, and also with both on the partner who is abusive as well as the person who's receiving the abuse. And I'm just EMDR certified. So activating that brain to process memories. I shared this with Kim the other day, a client I had where I had her drawing the 5 needs, you know, circles of very old school, you know, markers and crayons and all that kind of stuff. And how splitting the circle in half and what do you have control over, what don't you, and talking about how you fill your buckets and what you have choice over, and then kind of scribbling out the things that you don't have control over, which was super powerful for her. And as we did it, I asked her to name a song that was one of her favorite songs. And the funny thing was, because this was about her partner, her husband, she picked the song "You're So Vain" by Carly Simon, as she was scribbling out all of the things she didn't have control over. And she absolutely loved it. But it was activating, you know, that part of her brain where she could process memory, you know, connecting the dots on what she didn't have control over, really trusting that he's always going to be who he is. So we kind of filtered in, incorporating all these different things, and it was really cool. It was a great session, and I've used that with other clients too.
Thank you so much, Carmela, for sharing. Those are great examples. So I said earlier, applications to mediation and legal disputes. Kim was saying it about family relations, and here you giving us examples of helping the military and them coping and preventing suicide, as well as in these, you know, marital relations. I'm not sure if everybody knows the last designation, EMDR, I think you said.
Yeah, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. It's a way to process trauma. So most of the igniting is where you do the eye movement, and you can do it virtually, but I find it better in person. But there's other ways to do it. You know, you can do it through tapping, you can do it through drawing. I do a lot of journaling, and then one of the ways to process, you know, is because you're really activating thoughts as you're getting movement going. So we have this exercise called Scribble It Out, where you're really just like scribbling as hard as you can to erase the memory, you know, or not the memory, just that thought around the trauma. And it's very powerful. When I've seen clients activate, it's really cool to see the difference even in their facial expressions and, you know, the way they start to relax and process. And I'm a very visual person, you know, probably part of my, you know, ADHD, but they like the interaction. And especially when you're presenting to military, trust me, it's PowerPoints. And so the team that I worked with really tried to get away with that and get people up and moving and engaging. And it's so much more effective.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, Carmela. We really appreciate it. And lucky clients, that's all I can say. God bless.
Thank you. You as well.
Yeah. I saw in the chat, Kim, people were loving someone who said paradigm shift, that you go through a paradigm shift.
It is that.
You have
Yeah.
epiphanies. And I think it's like this. Once you say a story in the way that it was very, very painful and you share it out, and then you apply the principles, I've found I can't tell the story the same way again. I can't I can't communicate it with the level of pain I did the first time, because now I understand once I hear myself in that, as my daughter says, poor me, Tina Lee, mode. I can't go back to that escape anymore. I have to retell the story in a new way because I'm now already free. So again, we'd love to open up the mic. Kim, if you had any triggers when we were doing the dialogue with Carmela that you want to share back, and the mic is open. If you have questions for Kim, please put them in the chat or turn on your cameras. We're going to open mic it, and Kim, before they have questions for you, please tell me what's going on in your mind. How you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling terrific. And I super appreciate Carmela sharing her experience. And I'm wondering if Tony might like to share his, and maybe Amber, if we have the time. So those are two people I'd love for the audience to be able to hear from, if they're
So
willing.
Tony,
There's
yeah,
Tony. There's
Tony,
Tony.
come on down.
Okay. Oh, well, I tell you, I was sitting here listening to you, Kim, and thinking about how far we've come with this mental freedom experience from the time we did the first group has grown exponentially. And so one of the things I wanted to look at was how learning the principles of mental freedom and then kind of making the mistake and not really embracing it from the heart perspective and then beating yourself up about that. So I was involved with mental freedom from the very beginning. So I learned a lot about the mental freedom experience from the head perspective, but it took a little while to get into the heart. And as a result of that, I made a mistake that I now kind of regret, but because I now know mental freedom, I don't beat myself up about it. But the first time I did, when I made the mistake, I beat myself up about it. Then I came back and I said, you know, Tony, you know this stuff. Now you just got to get this in your heart. Forgive yourself and keep moving forward. And so that's how I use mental freedom in making the mistakes as a practitioner, and then continue moving forward.
Yeah, we have, Tina alluded to that unconditional trust challenge, which applies to trusting other people, but there's also an application for self that helps us forgive ourselves in moments when we've done things that we regret and actually be able to let go of that regret, which is magical sometimes, especially if you've been holding on to something for a long time. It's phenomenal. So, Tony, was there anything else you wanted to say?
No, I think that was pretty much it from that perspective. I wanted to make sure that we understood that. We talked about unconditional trust challenge that also apply unconditional trust to yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Amber, I didn't know if you wanted to share anything because Amber is also a practitioner.
So I'm a little bit nervous. I was hoping that Tony would talk a little bit longer.
Yeah,
But mental freedom, something that I've noticed recently for me is if you don't continue to practice it, then for me, I have fallen back into some old habits. And so it's like a refresher that I have to go through and remember, you know, the principles and really use them all of the time for it to stick for me, because I'm still creating new habits, because I had a lot of bad, negative kind of, I don't want to say bad, that's not the right word, but unhealthy habits as far as my mental freedom goes. And I really did enjoy the experiences that came with it. And I think that's where it went from head to heart, is having the actual experience and feeling the freedom that came with each principle. The have to, the way that I do it is have to choose to want to. It's like progressive. And that was the very first one that really clicked for me. And it had a lot to do with the language that you use. And so that's something that holds a lot of value for me. The unconditional trust challenge really helped in a lot of my personal relationships and a lot of healing that I needed from past hurts. And the way that I've been using mental freedom, we have volunteers that work with the community that we engage with. And a lot of that community is generational poverty, some situational poverty. And so when we're working with those clients, being able to come to them using the unconditional trust challenge, giving them the chance to show you who they are, but also helping them to maybe recognize their own language has helped them to experience their own piece of freedom as well. And so it's been very helpful and very valuable for me.
Thank you. Just to follow up on that, I recognize exactly what you're saying, that it's easy to drift away from the relationships. It's like when you read a self-help book and you think, oh my gosh, this changed my life. And you realize it changed your life for 2 weeks. And then you're on to something else. So we have a private Facebook group for people who've been through the mental freedom experience to interact with other people who are doing the mental freedom experience so that you can stay immersed in a community who's practicing these principles. So that's one thing. And we're also talking about offering mental freedom experiences again to people who've been through it once, if they want to go through it again, probably for free. We haven't made that decision yet, but we're thinking about if you've been through it once, you want to go through it again. You can just do that with us because we want to offer that. And we want this to truly be a revolution and not just something that you pay us to do and then you're on to the rest of your life. So that if you get the book, this is mostly about the book. So we're talking a lot about the experience, but I know that Denise has put in the chat the way to pre-order the book. And I just want to mention, and Denise, if you could hear me, and if I forget something, jump in, but I wanted to mention the free gifts that you get when you pre-order the book. So the book is ready to pre-order on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. You just need to put in Mental Freedom and my name, and it'll come up and you can order it. And when you do, you send your receipt to mentalfreedom@olverinternational.com. I'll have Denise put that link in the chat.
It's
and then
there.
you'll get the free stuff. So what we're giving people is we have a workbook to help you go through mental freedom and be able to write some of your answers and reflect. So that is free and that comes when you pre-order. We also have a mental freedom masterclass that's for VIP access only. So the only people that will get invited to that are the people who have pre-ordered the book. And that's going to be in August. We got 2 different times for that. One is on the 15th. The other's on the 16th. You'll also get 2 bookmarks that Denise created that look fabulous that you can download and print and use for reading Mental Freedom. Denise, what else is there? I'm forgetting something.
He's putting it in the
Coupon,
chat.
you get a 15% coupon.
Oh, right. 15% off coupon on any Mental Freedom product. So if you read the book and decide you want to take the experience, you can add 15% off to the cost at the end. And those are some things that we're offering if you pre-order, but you just have to remember to send your receipt because that's what triggers you getting the bonuses, and the bonuses often go into spam. So don't forget to check your spam. And if you've already pre-ordered the book, all you have to do is send your receipt to mentalfreedom@olverinternational.com.
And you
And
also get, I think it was something, the library, I forget what you call it.
Oh, right. We have a curated library of mental freedom. So anything, any blogs I've written about mental freedom, any podcasts I've done about mental freedom, they're all curated in a document that you'll get and be able to listen to as you see fit. So that's it. And I know that we have other people here that have been through the experience and maybe even the certification. I just want to give people an opportunity. If you have questions or comments that you'd like to say, I'm going to stop talking and just let you unmute yourself and say what you'd like to say.
Yeah, we're open for sharing. Thank you so much. Just as a recap, the book is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Please check out all of the mental freedom testimonials and the coaching directory and counselor directory that are on Olver International. We are building the community. So once you read the book and it starts to work for you, maybe you'll want to take the experience yourself and then perhaps move on to a coach or a counselor. So there's these wonderful opportunities. Kim, I just went through something at the Mo Foundation, and what they do is once you finish their coaching, then you can also volunteer to become a trainer. So if you're going to give away some mental freedom experience refresher courses, maybe it's also great training ground for those people who want to become a mental freedom experience trainers.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much. We have about, am I right with my glasses? Let me put it on. We have about 4 minutes remaining, and we'd love to hear from you. So if there's anybody else who wants to give us a shout out and share your story, that's fabulous. You can do that. So as a recap, we have gone over response versus responsibility and the unconditional trust. If you don't know what that means you've got to trust that people are always telling you who they really are, and you have to believe them. And that includes, as Tony said, yourself. So many more good nuggets to get from the book, and that's only 2 of the 6. So take that as your little teaser. Kim, do you see anybody? Is anybody reaching out to you and saying that they want to chime in?
I have not seen, but I haven't actually been watching the chat. So let me look right now.
I think maybe Kat. I don't know if Kat is open.
Oh, Kat, yes, of course.
Kat, are you with us?
I am with you. And if you undo my video, I'll be happy to come on.
I don't
Okay.
know how to do that.
I
I
think
think
you
I can
are.
send you a thing asking you to do that. So let me see if I can get there.
Okay.
I already did it.
Oh,
All right.
okay. There you
Yay.
are.
Thanks very much.
Welcome,
Well,
Kat.
honestly, it's how do I put into 2 quick minutes at the end of this time? Because Kim has my heart and always has. It doesn't matter distance or whatever, but we have walked through this. Kim, I don't even remember when it all started. It was actually, was it during COVID? During that whole pandemic time that this started to come to fruition?
Yeah, yeah.
And it really, what a gift, because I lived not too far from her, got transplanted down to Knoxville, Tennessee, and through the miracle of Zoom was able to stay connected and had the privilege of walking with her as she was developing and bringing all these concepts together. And all I can say is that honestly, Kim, you're one of the best curators of knowledge and information that I know. You are able to take principles that many people have left muddy in a lot of the minds of whether it's counselors, coaches, fill in the blank, whatever the word that is. And you can take a concept and present it in a way that can truly dramatically impact the hearer of now, again, we can't make people do what they don't want to do, true, but at the same time, I just want to say thank you. You helped lay a foundation for my solidifying my own coaching business that have now developed with Gallup and their strengths. But looking at, again, it's all about what we think, right? If our minds are not transformed into a new way of thinking and believing, nothing's going to happen and nothing's going to change. And so yeah, so I just bought the book and I drank the Kool-Aid and I'm in all the way. I'll do whatever I need to. You can see I have a book disease, but I have book diseases for wanting to be with the people who live their life the way I trust and value. And I just thank you for the privilege of being here today. And I want to encourage all of you, do not pass go, do not collect 200, just go directly to Amazon or Barnes & Noble and let's get the word out. Thank you, Kim.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was truly heartfelt. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I think we're so lucky to hear from the people who have transformed from head to heart to hand and are making a dent into the 2 million that will be impacted, because you get lucky by sharing your ideas and people buying into that story. And I have witnessed how it has transformed people from just being in a negative space to neutralizing their thoughts and being able to find their glow in any situation. And if you don't know what glow is, you better read the book and you'll find out. GLOW, and the W is for
Wisdom.
wisdom. So thank you everyone for coming, and let's give a big reaction to Kim with claps and hearts and noisemakers, whatever you'd like. Kim braving new territory with mental freedom, and all of us practitioners, experience, alumni, and those who will be in the book club. Any
Oh,
other
wait,
parting
wait 1
comments?
minute. Matilda wants to come in. So
Oh, yeah.
yes, yeah, you can. Just unmute yourself. Or do we have to unmute you, Matilda?
Oh, shoot.
Oh, there you are. I hear you. Oh, let me see. That wasn't you. Oh, I got Mary. No, there we go.
So anybody who had a hard stop at 7, thank you so much for joining us. For all of those who want to stay on, we'll be here for the next 30 minutes to have dialogue and exchanges. But those of you who came for the first hour, thank you very much for coming, and be sure to be in touch with any one of us. Thank you so much.
I want
Kim,
to
is
say thanks
Matilda
to
gonna come on?
I don't know. I
Yeah.
tried.
It's that well, I can talk. You can hear me, but the video is not working, I guess. I
Oh,
don't know. It's you cannot start your video because the host, it's a Missy.
hold
Let me
on.
try it again.
There you are.
There you
Now
are.
it works. Now it works. You see me, right? So hi
Yes.
everyone.
Hello.
Wow. So thanks for allowing me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, but thank you so much. Thank you so much for allowing me to be on this Zoom with you guys. Well, my interest I believe it's sparked because I have like my own struggles, going through Civil War as a little girl since I was like age 7, 8. It was 16 years of Civil War, but I didn't live in the Civil War for 16 years, but I went through a lot of trauma, then moved to refugees camp for 9 years. And then my adoptive father brought me to the US since 1998. And I've also had other experiences in my life as an adult, and I actually felt blessed that all within the midst of all this, I have never ever had to resort into taking medications, despite I was experiencing issues, like distress,
Mhm.
from whatever happened in my life. I felt so blessed that I didn't have to, take medications, because I think what helped me was because I said, listen, if I can survive the Civil War, there's still people over there, right? And, they're still thinking outside of the box, to do better. I say, if I can survive the Civil War and I'm in America, a country with a lot more opportunity, I think I can work on myself and just redirect my mind to focus on the present. And I feel really blessed to have someone as my godfather, who is Dr. Stephen Tracy, that Kim Olver, have a connection with as well. And I ran into this beautiful book, Trust Theory. I grabbed onto that book, I read that book, and that book really helped shift my mindset. And I've been using that book in every relationships in my life, parenting, I mean, my career, and it really, really, that's the only book I have read from William Glasser that has helped me. So I have developed one thing that have really helped shift my life, my mindset. And I think that's what we all need. That's what we all need. And I've always been thinking to look out more ways, more avenue, resources, and connect with people that I can always develop and grow my mindset. However way they're going to present it, it's going to lead to mindset. So I've been following Kim because I like her teaching and teachings. I based on choice theory. So I just never met her, but I just have a love, that love for her. And I read one of her books on relationship as well. And I was like, this is a lady that I love her teaching. So when I saw this, she dropped this information. I said, wow, mental freedom. Wow, that sounds, yeah. I said, I want to be part of that zone because I want to learn more because right now I'm in my career, I'm a health educator, I'm a fitness specialist, I'm a trainer, I'm a nutritionist. I mean, you can name it. I have so many things going on in my life. And my long-term goal is to help my people in Liberia. So I have a platform right now that I've created. And I say, listen, guys, this is a virtual community. It's not on ground, but this is my visual. And majority of the people on my platform, luckily, even though the platform for everyone, but luckily, the people from back home, majority of them are the one on my platform. And I've been teaching them a lot about mindset because my fitness program, wellness program, is based on mindset, a huge component of it. That's what I did. So it's fitness, fitness, nutrition, which is the health and fitness program. So it's fitness, nutrition, and then mindset. Those three things I'm using. I'm using mindset because I feel like with all mindset, because I've learned choice theory and any other books that I've read, it all starts from your mind. That's why I've been so interested in Kim Olver, and I say I'm going to keep following this lady. I said this year, because this year was the year I started my platform. Now you're going to be connecting with more people so you can learn, Matilda. You need to learn more because you're still an amateur. So I need to learn a lot in coaching. I know my field, what I went to school for, but what I intend to do have a lot to do with coaching. I can't just deliver a nutrition service because I say I know it, or a fitness service, I know it. People are not going to listen to you and do the right thing because it has to do with belief, their culture, and how do you break those barriers is mindset. So I need to work on work on teachings of mindset to implement it into my program. Like how you guys were talking the story, how you incorporate, and I'm like, yeah, this is it. This is it. So that's why I am here today. And I'm looking forward because I heard a lot of beautiful things, how it has, been helpful to some of the practitioners. I obviously haven't used it. I'm new to it. So moving from here, now that I have an overview, this is exactly what I was looking for when she was talking about, she gave, she touched up on few of the 6 principles to mental freedom when she talked about response ability, and then versus responsibility versus responsibility. And then she gave example. I'm like, this is it, because accountability, it plays a huge role unless we know that we can take accountability, then otherwise nothing gonna be done. So I'm being interested more and more and more as she just touch up on it and talking about opportunity for like trainings and stuff which you got to purchase the book first, read the book. So all in all, long story short, my goal is long term, no matter how long it takes, I will have access to this teaching where I can look at myself. I said, I know I'm a coach on, like, mental freedom, and I feel so confident and comfortable to apply this to my program in Liberia, because my program hasn't been launched, nothing been launched. I'm just working on social media platform to build my team. So whenever I decide to go Liberia at the right time, I already have a relationship built with some of the people on the platform, and then I can work with them on ground. They can help me and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to grow myself and develop myself at this point. And I
Speak
need
it.
all the tools. I need all the right tools.
Speak
So
it into reality. I know it'll happen. I've been watching you too. And if you want, you can put your TikTok platform in the chat, because this woman is a
Oh.
fitness genius. I watch some of the things she does, and she's always smiling with music playing, and she looks so happy. And I think, oh, that's not what I want to do. But I love watching her, because I think it's going to give me the inspiration to get more physical. So thank you. I think we have a mutual connection here. So thanks so much, Matilda.
Thanks, Matilda. I definitely
thank you
see.
so much too.
And thanks, Steve, for introducing us, even though we have never met personally in
Yes.
real life. I've known
Yes.
your son Champ for a lot of years,
Yes.
and he's a very special human. And so is Steve.
Yes.
So thank you. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you.
I would also like to take this time. Some people already got off, which of course it's okay that you did that, but I want to thank anyone who pre-ordered the book, because that just means a lot to me. And I know that you're already joining the mental freedom revolution. Also, we have a sign up. I don't know if Denise put this in the chat, but if you want to advertise for me, Mental Freedom, the book, I've got some social media assets we can give you access to, and it's just a copy and paste if you think that this is something you would like to share with the people that you are connected to. So I have an email you can send, I have some social media posts, and you can take care of
Yes,
that if you want to.
that link is in the chat, the street team. That's joining the street team, that you'll get all access to that stuff.
I'm
Awesome.
definitely interested. You know what I think? I think, Kim, when you guys were talking, I was thinking, because I have a mentor, okay? She's been a scientist for over 20 some more years. And she also a holistic nutritionist or fitness instructors for coaching. And I was thinking that she will love this book, but I want to get this book first, dive into it and say, listen, and because I know her, I said, this is you. And what you do daily matter on Facebook. She runs that platform, for fitness, for, eating healthy,
Yep.
losing fat and stuff. I feel like she can use this. She can incorporate this in the group as well. Yes, she would. Yeah. So I thought about her. She's going to be the first person I'm going to tell her about this book.
Okay. Thank you.
Because once she falls, she likes it, she gets it. She's going to run it by all the women in the group, all the women, because she's the coach in the group.
That's
Yeah.
great.
So
Thank you.
she's gonna be the- yeah.
That means a lot, because
Thanks.
this is not about me. This is so much bigger
No.
than me. This is
It's
about
for everyone.
Yeah, it's for everyone, and it's about the work that William Glasser did many decades ago. This is just built on his shoulders. I stand on his shoulders, and I think that this is a way of bringing some new life into the work of Dr. Glasser, because people think of him as, oh, that's old, that's from the past, and I want to start getting a new spark of interest in the brilliant work that he created. So anybody wants to help, I'm absolutely excited to have you help. So that's it. Anybody else want to have anything they want to say? Oh, you're muted, Matilda. I don't hear you.
Ask my
There you go.
godfather. because I have a high interest for choice theory. He knows that. And I know he still links with you guys. He be teaching, he be going for those conferences. I know that, right? And he says to me, those conferences are so expensive. We're still trying to figure out how like a common person, like a student or this and this can actually attend. Because Matilda, I called them, when they do those conferences, they have it at a place where you got to fly and buy a huge round trip ticket. And then the hotels cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars. He explained all of that to me. I said, oh, well, maybe one day I'll be able to go in. I will meet
That's
Kim.
right.
That's what I
That's
told him.
right.
Hey, Matilda, we're going to fix that. We're going to fix that.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, I didn't know you were on.
Oh yeah, I'm listening to you. I'm taking
he
notes
was
over
on.
here.
I didn't know he was on. Okay, beautiful. He's on. That's nice. Right, Steve? You're going to fix that?
Yep. And Kim's going to help me.
Thank you, Steve. All right.
I'm happy to.
Thank you. That's great. We like that.
All right.
All right.
So Kim,
Thank
we'll
you,
just
Kim.
thank you so much, everyone, for contributing. It was a beautiful session. I hope you're leaving with a lot of energy. And Kim, I think that want to just shout out, it's already spread from India to Liberia to Croatia, throughout the US and Canada.
Australia.
So it's moving already. Very strong, and that's before the book is even out. So everybody rock this book and review it and share it, and like Matilda, be inspired and pass it on to those you think will benefit from it first. And Kim, I'll let you wrap it up with the closing thoughts.
Well, my closing thoughts, truly, it's very humbling to see all the people that came on to this call today. And Tina, I want to thank you for inviting all of the people that you know in your contacts. And I also want to thank you for hosting this and interviewing and providing the interview. And I know that you are a true mental freedom believer and practitioner, and that warms my heart. And the other people on here who have already gone through the program, I just am so grateful to you for trusting me to try something new that the bugs hadn't all been worked out of yet, and helping me to do that. And we're ready now. We're ready to really take this to scale. So if you're on board the mental freedom revolution, that's awesome. I look forward to our paths crossing again. And to those of you who bought the book, many, many thanks.
What
And
would be your hashtag? Mental freedom.
Well, we have
Revolution?
mental
What would be
freedom
your hashtag?
hashtag, but you can do
I
mental freedom.
post a video.
Okay. You can
Okay,
do
mental
mental
freedom.
freedom or mental freedom revolution, whatever you want to do. We use both of them.
Got you.
And
Okay, good.
yeah, if you happen to be coming to the Choice
Thank
Theory
you.
Conference in a couple of weeks, I'll see you then. I'm excited to see people there. And if you have questions that you didn't get a chance to ask, just email me. I think most of you know my email address. It's Kim@Olver, that's OLV as in Victor, ER, international.com. So you can just email me if there's anything you want to know. And I did see your note, Mary Labar, and I'm excited for you. My friend Mary Labar, I graduated high school with, just graduated herself from university and is going for a degree in psychology. So I was very happy to hear that. And I'm just excited with all of the people that were here. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. It means so much.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody. And be sure to write Kim or Denise at Olver International. Check out all of the social media pages, whether on Facebook or LinkedIn or TikTok or with the other platforms, Facebook. Then you can get tons of information and see who else is active in the community to start hacking away at the 2 million people that will be impacted by these mental freedom, 6 steps to mental freedom. It truly is going to change your life. Amazing. Thank you, Kim, very much.
Thank you.
And behind the scenes, thank you, Goran. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Jane. And we're just starting many more collaborations to come. If you have ideas, just reach out.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.